Hi, this is Jerry and welcome to my channel. Right, today I'm keeping things really simple. Going to do a soft coastal scene with a fully wet into wet sky, and I'm saving a few whites in the landscape to keep that lovely light. And I'm only using 4 brushes just to show you how little you actually need. Now I'll talk you through the decisions as I go, and hopefully you'll pick up a couple of little secrets along the way. Now first off, I'm going to be mixing up lots of water, and I'm using white watercolour as well, mixed with just a little bit of Payne's grey. Lots of white paint. I was always told not to use white, but I found it's great for these nice milky skies. Plenty of water, plenty of paint. Make sure you mix up enough to do the whole sky, and then wet the whole thing. Just a little bit of colour here. I'm just going to be putting in a few clouds, but because this is so wet, you're going to have plenty of time to work the clouds in. The clouds are going to be in French Ultramarine and Cobalt blue. You can see the shine on the paper now. Just popping in these clouds. I've got plenty of time to work on this. And bear in mind that it will dry much lighter. So I'm going to go a little bit darker. Being as it's so wet, and it gives you a little bit of time to play around with the sky, get it to how you want it to be. I'm just making this mixture a little bit darker, otherwise it'll be too light and won't really show up. Just a few clouds. I've gone around all the areas below the rocks and the hills, and I've just gone over the sea area. As I said, I'm just going to be using 4 brushes for this. The brushes are a number 10, a Skoda Perla, a number 13, a Skoda Ultimo, a number 9 Tintoretto, and a number 2 major brush. And that last brush is just really just for doing some of the fine detail. Now I've actually cleaned the palette as it covered half of it. The paints I'm using are Winsor & Newton and also Jackson Watercolours. This particular blue that I'm using, the French Ultramarine, is Jackson Watercolour. Do like their artist grade paints, easily as good as the other major brands. I'm just putting in the horizon line here and the sea. I'm going to be using bands of colour here. Very important to keep your line straight. The outline drawing is available on my website, where I put in all the rocks and the person standing on the shore. Cobalt turquoise for the lower part of the sea. And the paper I'm using is Saunders Waterford 140 pounds rough. This is lavender. Going to be quite a colourful painting, this one, by my standards. It's always nice to not keep to the same methods the whole time and just to change things sometimes. And with the rocks here, I'm going to be using some different colours, keeping lots of white in the sea area, which is going to be the is the foam top of the waves. Quite a calm sea. Going straight over, I'll put a person standing, just gives the composition a bit of interest, having a figure there, and gives you an idea of scale as well. Sap green, French ultramarine. First wash on these trees on the left hand side. Not making too much of this, but making sure I leave a few holes here and there. As you can see, I use quite a large palette, which gives me the ability to leave pools of different colours there that I can dip into and use as I go, which is how I like to work in the studio. This was a little bit of a colour called Jaune Brilliant, Jaune, brilliant, which is basically raw sienna and white. Just starting to put the rocks in now. And some of the shoreline, and as you can see, I'm putting in some quite interesting colours here. That was light red. Looking around where else I can use it. So I can keep using that with that particular brush. I'm not switching brushes too much with this. I'm washing out the brush in my water pot, and I have a flat sponge that I wipe the brush out onto. As long as you're not going too dark, you can get away with more or less using one brush. This is the number 10, the Skoda, which is going to be doing quite a bit of the painting. Rocks are just shapes at this stage. Don't worry too much about painting a rock. Just think of it in terms of light and shadow. Just using a little bit of dry brush technique here and there. Leaving lots of white paper, lots of sparkle. Just remember which way the light's coming onto the painting with these rocks. In this case, it's coming from the right, which is what's going to be the lightest part of the rocks. Just putting in a little bit of grey colour into the beach colour there. That was just a little bit of Payne's grey, just to dirty it up a little bit. Payne's grey again. Just adding some more elements to this rock shape, large rock shape. If you're painting rocks, just remember to make your rocks different sizes. Don't paint all your rocks the same. And if you're doing a series of rocks, maybe do them 3 different sizes: large, medium and small. Much more interesting. Even if what you're looking at is actually 3 rocks the same size, just alter the size of them. Remember, you're not taking photographs, you're doing a painting. Going over again with the light red here and there, just darkening it up a little bit. And there's the shadow of where the person's standing. Going into the raw umber now with the number 10 brush. Going with some darker paint now. Incidentally, you can see how that sky's dried quite nicely. Just a hint of being cloudy, which is the white mixed with the Payne's grey. Just randomly putting the paint all round, and when it dries, it looks quite effective. Don't be afraid to use white in your paintings. I do use it quite a lot now. Just going around the drawing, the painting with some raw umber, putting in some of the rock shapes. Just keep everything kind of random and loose. It's all about atmosphere, this. There's not too much detail. Bluey mixture. Bit of French Ultramarine with the Payne's grey. Burnt sienna, raw umber, warming the raw umber up a little bit with that burnt sienna. Now let that dry, and using a putty rubber to remove the pencil lines. I did quite a few pencil lines to help with the outline drawing, and when I paint, I just avoid the pencil lines, especially with lighter colours, because once you cover it with paint, you probably won't get it out. So if I just paint short of the line, then when it comes to rubbing it out, it's fine. It's had no paint on it. And things like the sea, the foam of the sea, little waves and that, look much better for not having pencil lines across them. It's all right with it, just a sketch. Doesn't matter, but I think with the painting, get rid of them. When I do the sketches, I use a 2B pencil with a nice fine point. You can see these colours are really bringing it to life. These reds, burnt sienna, light red. And take note of the way I use my brush as well. Quite often I'll use it with a sort of sideways movement and just use the grain of the paper to break up the lines, broken edges. Sap green, Payne's grey. Going to get the shadows in these trees on the top left. Now you'll see I use a lot of paint there at the base, quite thick, and then just a watered down sap green mix, bringing that paint up. That's the lighter part of the trees where the sun's hitting it. But bringing it up from that dark colour, which will stop the hard edge and let the colours merge nicely, make it look more balanced. Once again, working on these rock shapes. You see how I'm working. I'm doing an area and then letting it dry and then do another area, which with a painting like this pays to just do a little bit of planning before I start of where I'm gonna paint, bearing in mind I'm gonna let it dry, and I don't want to be drying it with a dryer all the time. So just working around the painting. Now I'm dropping in some darker colours here. Payne's grey, neutral tint. Neutral tint's a colour I quite like to use for my darks. As you can see now, the darks are starting to make things look more three-dimensional, and keeping them to the left. Keep the darks to the left. Just trying to keep everything random. These rocks on the beach. I think a lot of this comes down to practice, really. Just keep painting rocks, more rocks, and eventually you get a understanding of the shapes of rocks and how the light bounces off the rocks. You can see with the darks now it's making the beach colour really shine, making it really look like quite a warm day. Number 10 of Skoda, putting in the figure there. Just adjusting the lower part of the figure there, gave him legs that were a bit too short. Adding some more colour, opera pink. I've got these colours on my palette that I don't really use very much. Opera pink's one of them. I mainly use it just when I'm doing flower paintings. I find that if I'm not using a colour that much, eventually I'll replace it. And I'm thinking of having a white, one of the wells for white paint anyway. At the moment it's just on the bottom of the palette. Very watery blue there, putting in some more watercolour over the reflection of the figure. I'm going over this area at the back with some raw umber. Putting in some marks at the base of these clump of trees. Once again, I got the rubber out, putty rubber, losing those few marks that are left here and there. Don't want those left in. There's nothing to say you can't leave them, but I prefer to take them out. Leave that nice white paper showing. Cobalt blue, doing the horizon again. Putting in a band of dark colour for the distant water. Nice straight line. And then a watery mix of cobalt turquoise. Blending that into clear colour as it comes down. Bit of water on the bottom of that to blend it in. Putting a little bit of green colour now. It's going to be the impression of maybe some weed, some seaweed on that bottom part of the sea area. And now adding some more colours to that large rock, really making a feature of that and making the eye drawn towards that and the figure. Sometimes if you put the paint on while it's still wet and you think it's too dark, just use some clean tissue, touch it, take some of the colour out. Just going around adding some darks and some mid colours. Just touching it here and there with a brush tip. Keeping lots of white though, lots of nice white areas in the sea, in the foreground, and in the middle distance where the person's standing. Now adding some cadmium yellow, a lot of water, to the base of that rock, and then the Champollion with a little bit of Payne's grey, just darkening it up a little tiny bit. Looks a bit in need of another wash. Quickly going over this area at the bottom. Like the contrast now between the darks and the lights. Light against dark, dark against light. It's all part of the magic of watercolour. Taking out those last few guide marks. Just a bit too much white there on that on those waves there, so very wishy-washy mixture. Cobalt, lots of water. Still adding darks. Neutral tint. And using it on the base of these trees on the top left as well. That'll dry a bit lighter and blend in. This is a number 2 brush. Very small brush, very fine tip. Using it to put in these birds. I always put in odd numbers of birds. Not happy with that one there, so putting in some water, clean water and a brush, just giving it a very light scrub. Get rid of that one and paint it again. There's a little spot on there as well that where I'd splashed. Wasn't happy with that bird shape, so going again. That's better. And then using that tiny brush to do some of the fine work on this figure who's standing there looking out to sea. Just using some of this mixture on the top left of the palette, which is neutral tint and raw umber. Just putting in some shadows where I think it needs to be. Get very near the end of the painting now, getting to the stage where I've got to resist the temptation to just be fiddling and not doing anything to improve the painting. I'll pop a signature on this one. Not too much left to do now. Taking off this masking tape very gently, pulling it away from the painting. And it's quite freshly on this masking tape, so it comes off nice and easy, nice and slow, so I don't take the surface of the paper off as well. And then I'll have a look at the painting again quickly and see if there's any other bits that need to be done. I know just a little bit on that reflection I wasn't happy with. I will have a look at this in a day or two and see if there's any slight adjustments that's needed. Look at it with fresh eyes. That's it. Nice and simple. Have a go yourself, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.